So up next, I have Patrice Cullors. And I remember Patrice because when I came to the Strategy Center in 2001, I was in the National School for Strategic Organizing, and I met Patrice. That's almost 9 years ago, right? And Patrice at that time was youngry. That's right, exactly. Young and hungry. She was youngry. She was youngry. But in the time that I've actually spent, I've learned a lot from Patrice. Like the transformative organizing is epitomized in her practice. She's transformed the organization by being a part of it, opening up new wings of work, obviously with senior organizers like Manuel, but the fusion of that, creating whole new pieces of work, the Community Rights Campaign, our Summer Youth Organizing Academy, taking young folks and helping transform them, right? And so I'd like actually for Patrice to talk a lot about her own journey, where she started and what the impact of this politics and how she's making it her own and then taking off with it. So Patrice Cullors.
Somebody get a count of the room. How many people do we have in here? 300?
Wow.
That's like a political party. Give yourself a round of applause for showing up. And sticking around. Thank you very much. So my name is Patrisse Cullors. I lost my voice 2 days ago. It's coming back from leading our contingent, marching at the opening march. It was an honor. It's an honor to be at the Social Forum. I'm so proud of being a part of the left. I am so grateful. It has literally saved my life. So, and that is really important to me. Part of my conversation with this group of people today, with 300 of you, which I hope you'll go back to your own cities and your own neighborhoods and your own communities and bring this piece of work back, not as just a pamphlet, but as an organizing tool, as an organizing model. And I think for me, when I came to the organization, when I was organized into the organization, I was 17 and a half. I was really angry. I was really angry. And I didn't have a direction. I just was spewing anger. I was angry at what I bared witness with my family and police brutality. I was angry that my mother had to work 3 jobs and she never slept. I was angry that just like there were so many things that I was looking at and so many things that I was angry about. And Damon Azali and Jaron Brown, who's in the room today, who's a part of Power, who I joked with, I said, hey, remember how I was 17 and a half and you organized me? Organized me into the bus riders union at the time. And what actually caught my attention, I was, they had showed a 10-minute clip of the bus riders union, and there was this scene in the film where there's a black woman organizing on the bus, and there's a Korean woman organizing in the back of the bus, and the black woman is speaking Spanish, and I'm like, wait, what? And then the black woman turns to a Korean grandmother and goes, oh, Korean? Calls to the Korean organizer in the back and is like, we have a Korean speaker, can you come organize her? And I was sold. I was like, that's what I want to be a part of. That right there makes sense to me. So I've been here ever since. And it's definitely been, as Tammy said, it's definitely been a journey for me. I grew up queer. I grew up as working class, queer, black woman, and a single parent household. My father was in and out of prison, addiction. Both basically all my family is just like the kind of typical life of black working class people. And that positionality, I think, in this country is supposed to devastate us. It's supposed to make us feel like we cannot do anything. It's supposed to debilitate us. And unfortunately, it's done that successfully to some of us. But what I believe our role is, what I believe what it means to be a transformative organizer is to bring this politic into our communities and explain to them that actually your experience is exactly what we need to fight this thing. And so that's what I've done. That's what I continue to do. My life hasn't really changed much. My brother's still in prison. My father passed away in December. And what I say of racism, he was only 53 years old. And he passed of racism because this country killed him. And I think my question to this audience, and it's less to Eric because I feel like Eric's been doing it, but what are you willing to do? Because it's great to come to the social forum and it's amazing to have thousands of people here, but what are we going to do? Because it is life and death for us. I actually don't think of it any other way, because it would be negligent for me to think of it any other way. And so my question to this audience, what I really would like to hear is, what are you, like, one, get the book, like just point blank period. I like saying that. Get the book, it's $3 to $5, but then what are you willing to do with it? I would like to hear people like some creative solutions. I was at our publications table today, and I was speaking to this young person from Arizona who's trying to fight SB 1070. And he grabbed the book and he said, it's like Mao's Red Book. And I was like, man, that's what I was thinking. And it was just really cool to hear him make that connection. And I was like, how about you buy like 10 to 15 of these books and you all have like a youth like organizing group where you talk about it and you really try to engage this. And we can just we need to build off of this. And so that leads me to a point that I actually wanted to kind of focus on today, which is I think I have a really important role in speaking to youth. I have, maybe it's because I came in the movement at 17 and a half, so I have like just a knack for knowing how to organize young people into this organization and kind of teach them this politic and then hear them now organize other people. But I think what I want to talk about is the role of, quote, youth organizing, and how I think that what I've seen since I was a young person has been actually really detrimental. And I say that because I have not actually seen people organize young people transformatively. What I've seen is some serious divisiveness when it comes to, quote, youth and adult organizing. And what I've learned from Eric in particular and the Panther Party was a 9-year-old was a Panther. It wasn't the youth and then the adults. And I think that is an actually really dangerous divide that has spewed up in our current movement. And I'm really trying to, I've been having this conversation since I was 18, to be honest with you, with other young people. And I think for me, my role is to continue to have those conversations. And how do we actually see this as an intergenerational movement? And we don't. How do we really combat the ideology that we're gonna pass the torch now to the 17-year-old? We're gonna watch them do whatever they do and then see them fail over and over again. How is that helpful? We have a lot to teach people, and it's gonna be in us. It's gonna be in the intergenerational movement that we're able to win things. And I think our organization is testament to that. So for me, that's the first question is, what are you willing to do? And the second question is, I think it's to the people that are doing, quote, youth organizing work and or our youth in the room. I would like you to engage that question a little bit with me around how do you see that, and if you see that. I'm not trying to say that it should just be the, quote, adults speaking in a space, but I think it has to be an intergenerational dialogue so we can move forward. So thank you.
This is what I'd like to do now. We have some time. Right after this workshop at 3:30 is going to be the workshop Glenn Beck's Nightmare. Socialism for the 21st Century, which is going to be on Steve's article, right? Name it and claim it. But before we do that, so we have some time to actually, I want to engage the crowd. But before I do, Eric, there's been a lot of questions that I've generated on this panel. So I want you to take the next 5 minutes or so and really just elaborate a bit before we open it up to the floor, because I want you guys now to also engage. Eric?
Well, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about, seriously, is using the book as an organizing mechanism. As organizers, one of the things that's very important is doing things for each other. Like when every time I heard Cesar Chavez, it was very obvious that I had to write a check. I mean, or I had to join or I had to boycott the store. I mean, he wasn't here to just talk. He wanted to do something. And every time I go to a meeting, you know, what's the first thing a very developed person does at a political meeting? What's the first question they ask? What can I do to help? Right? Not what do you think of Albania versus, but what can I do to help? So I want to just explain something. We have 1,200 copies of the book, which we brought for 11,000 people. But this was the place where we thought we were going to really sell a lot, because this is the central place we're discussing it. You know what it's like. We printed them. I think they're really nice. They're professionally printed. And we're selling them for $3 because we just want to get them out. I mean, we're trying to. So it would mean a lot if you considered buying 3 or 4. Consider getting some and bringing them back to everybody. We also want your mailing list, because the Strategy Center mailing list, which we put out our radio show, Voices from the Front Lines, which Tammy and I do. And a lot of people are starting to stream live on the web at, we're 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That would be the greatest 2 things we could get, is your name and an email and an aggressive buy for the book, okay? So please consider that as you're going out. We have a lot of them. Now, boy, the questions, I want to start with methods, because I agree with what you're saying. I think we have to get very concrete, just like in organizing, about what works in that field. That is to say, there are many trainers, teachers, exercises, but let me just give you a few examples. At the Strategy Center, most of our people are transit dependent. So a very simple thing is we always have food for every meeting, because people are hungry and people love it. People don't miss a lot of meetings, Then people are transit dependent. In Barbalat Holland, we'll often keep people at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then all the people with cars drive the people home no matter where they are, because the buses don't run at 11 o'clock at night. The third thing we do is the training of women leadership. The organization, I don't know, we should count it, but 65, 70% women, maybe more. But the most important thing, they're almost all oppressed nationality people. And I know, Nether, that one of the things you would talk about more is the question of internalized depression. And as a white person who's been in the movement listening, one of the things that we try to do, because there's a lot of things you try to figure out, what could you do? So one of the things we do is give women authority very early. Train them as leaders. When they come in, the understanding is you're being trained from the minute you get in to be a leader. So, but you also work under somebody who knows more than you, which is what Patrice was saying. You work under an experienced person. But by your 3rd day on the bus, we're going to set you free. You're going to go back to the back of the bus, and while the other person's working in the front of the bus, and you're going to then sum it up. And what you'll say is, I felt bad because I was queer, and I got some very bad reactions. I was hit on. 7 men thought they were very interested, and then I realized they weren't interested. I got nervous. I wasn't able to speak. Or I was preachifying, and I was so nervous that I was giving an oration. And what we say is, look, relax. Each one of these can be solved. We do a lot of attention. I teach an organizer's exchange, and it has a deeply psychiatric, cultural nature, because we don't just discuss how to do it. We discuss how did you feel about what you were doing. And it gets pretty deep about how you feel about what you're doing, because you got to go out there to a fairly hostile audience. That means it's bringing up to you a lot of things. And because we're asking you to bring left things, the audience gets more hostile, and some days feel terrible. And then there are the days where the Red Sea opens, and you just believe, I found some really amazing people. And that makes it all worthwhile, because it's a great job. So I think it's great that Grassroots Leadership and the Strategy Center and Power and Grassroots Global Justice, we should continue this conversation about what would be the mechanisms that would be best, what can we learn from you, what are the better ones you think we should be doing. And just an example, we do and don't do enough of Augusto Boal's Cop in the Head stuff, where we opened up our every time we have a retreat, we do at least one Augusto Boal Cop in the Head workshop where you are touching each other and you are doing crazy stuff and you are, the script is just going wherever the place it goes. So I think it's a great conversation among amazing people. And then the last thing I'd say, because I know Steve, you raised important questions, and Cindy, is that I think that the purpose of this book, the purpose of Steve's article on socialism, that Aijen's article, the Netha's 101, is 201 printed yet?
It's both of them are in that.
The role of written work is critical, because the work doesn't change. You have the time to read it, think about it, mark it, and then go back and talk to people. We need to develop a culture of literacy. We have to remember that the slaves were killed if they were found to be literate. So the system does not want working people to read, and we want to develop a culture of literacy. So with that, I still didn't answer a lot of the questions, but we'll keep that going.
All right. Give it up for the folks. I think the 6 of them put a lot on the floor. A lot on the floor. I took a lot away. So I want to throw it back to the floor. I want to take several questions at a time, and whatever the spirit moves you, right? So just so for folks, there are